Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about the difference between emotional childhood and emotional adulthood. Now, for those of you that haven't heard this sort of concept before, emotional childhood is simply when we are reliant on anything external for the way we feel. Okay, and emotional adulthood is the complete opposite when we take full responsibility for our feelings and realize that we create them, as in it's our thoughts that are creating those feelings. Now, one thing I want to stress is just because we become aware of this and we'll probably realize we want to spend our time in emotional adulthood doesn't mean we're not going to slip into emotional childhood. And this is really important because often we can start beating ourselves up and thinking this is bad, but actually it's about reducing the amount of time that we spend in it. We are human. We've got to give ourselves permission to be human, and we will slip into emotional childhood from time to time. But if we can catch it, the more we can become aware of it, then we can move ourselves out of it. Okay. So here are the main differences. Okay. Emotional childhood, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but I think of it like that victim mentality. Like because you're dependent and you're at the mercy of things in your external environment, whether that be people or situations. So you're dependent. You think if your happiness is reliant on someone else, then you're going to have to wait for them to do something or say something or to feel a certain way for you to feel a certain way. So you're at the mercy of that other person. I always like to think of it as like you're giving them the remote control of your life, and then you're sort of waiting for them to say when you can feel positive. So external, you're reliant on that external thing for you to feel better. And then we blame. So what we do is we're when you're in emotional childhood, you're blaming people for when you feel negative. Because what we do is we're dependent on other people to feel positive emotions like happiness, but then we blame when we're feeling negative. So we're either dependent or we're blaming. And it really is we feel quite powerless because it feels like we're not in control of our feelings. A lot of people will talk, when they come to me, they will talk about how they feel like they're not in control. And it's often because they're functioning in emotional childhood. And it's like an instant gratification. If you think like people pleasing is a sort of symptom of emotional childhood. And what you're doing is you're getting that quick hit, that validation, that reassurance, or you're people pleasing. And it's in the moment you're getting that quick hit. And of course, the brain likes that. Emotional adulthood is the opposite. It's about ownership. Because if you go, I am responsible for the way I feel, and then suddenly you take back full control and ownership. Now, a lot of people go to blame, but there's a difference between responsibility and fault. Okay. So when you take responsibility for the way you feel, you don't say, I'm to blame for feeling this way, because that's to suggest there's something wrong with the way you're feeling. But it's about going, I'm feeling this way and it's my responsibility. So emotional adulthood is about ownership, responsibility. It's internal. You're not reliant on the external for the way you feel. You realize that happens internally. And it's a very powerful place to be. Because if someone says something to you and you have an emotional reaction, you realize that actually you're the creator of that. So that you don't have to wait for that person to change or do something differently for you to actually feel better. And it's about a delayed gratification. Your brain will want to go towards the emotional childhood, that people pleasing, and it wants that instant fix. But when we can take that responsibility, we feel that discomfort in the moment. But actually, what it does, it's like a delayed gratification because we see the benefits of it further down the line. So that's the main differences. And this is what we see as the result of emotional childhood when we're in it. We're always trying to change our circumstance. I hope you can see that. We always change our circumstance to feel better. Okay. So we're like, someone said something and we're sort of saying, actually, no, we're telling people how they should behave so we can feel better. And we think events are creating this feeling. So then we try and control those events. We try and change our circumstances. And often, sometimes it might be appropriate to change a circumstance, but there's times when we can't do that. There's times when things happen in our life and actually this circumstance can't be changed. And we try and control others. We create what we call manuals for people where we go, actually, this is like a rule book of how you need to behave so that I don't feel bad. And so and we become like very, I see this a lot. We become like control freaks. And also because we don't like negativity, maybe we don't even let people help us and do stuff like that. Or we start people pleasing. We start doing things because we want to be liked. Maybe we have a low self-worth, a low opinion of ourselves. So then we start doing things to seek validation and reassurance from others so that we can feel better. And we're basically dependent on others for our happiness. My little happy smiley face. And we blame others when we're feeling negative. So we're never in control because when we're feeling positive and happy, we say, oh, it's because of this. And then when we're feeling negative, we go, it's because of that. It's because of them, because they did that. And we're never realizing that we are the creator of these feelings. And that's what gives us full control. So what I want to do is show you on the whiteboard what's happening, because I think this is really key. So if you've got this other person, whether it be your significant other or someone at work, could be anyone. Okay, so there we go. The way I want you to think about this is, if we write the model here, so I'm going to have to move this back a little bit for you so you can see it. And we'll move that back a little smidge. Actually, I'm not sure you can even see that. That's not a very good pen, that. We'll rewrite that with this one. Yeah. Right, let's rewrite that one. Here we go. Right. So we've got the model for each person. Now, what I want you to do is think about is this is you and this is them. Now, the easiest way to think about this is that person's action, say they criticize, becomes your circumstance. That's really the easiest thing. Like their behavior is driven by, so you would be their circumstance. Maybe you're having a conversation, you've done something, there's obviously many different circumstances. Then they have a thought and a feeling. So we don't know what that is because these people aren't here, unless they tell us that and we understand what their thinking is, but they may criticize us. So their action becomes our circumstance. Now, we may feel rejected because we're thinking, I'm not good enough. I'm going to run out of space. I'm not good enough. And then we might blame, judge, and we might even criticize ourselves. And the result is we're powerless. But can you see that it's not that we're condoning this behavior? Okay, that's the first thing. People think that once we take responsibility for our feelings, that somehow we're condoning behavior. It's not about that. This is about going, This person is not in control of this feeling. They are the stimulus, but then this is the response. Our action is the response, but there's this space in between the stimulus and response, which is our thought and our feeling. And often, what people are really doing is squeezing out the beliefs we hold about ourselves. And so, if we get criticized, if we get judged, then and we feel rejected, we think it's their words that are making us feel that feeling of rejection. But actually, when we see and we question it, we realize that we have a thought, a belief, I'm not good enough. Because if we didn't think that, if we thought I'm amazing and we had criticism, we might just learn from it. We wouldn't feel rejected and we would just learn from it, move on, and be able to put the criticism to one side. So what this does really is it sort of squeezes out the beliefs we hold about ourselves. Because then what we do is we act a certain way. We might tell them that we felt this way and we communicate it, and then that becomes their circumstance. And then they tell us, oh, I felt really angry about that. And why? Because they're having another thought about it. And this is how the cycle goes. But emotional childhood is made worse because we believe that we should feel happy all the time, as in we reject negative feelings. And when you think when you're in any relationship, when you're at work, when you're just negotiating life, you are going to experience negative emotions. But we've been conditioned to think that we shouldn't feel these emotions. So then what we do is we want to change them, and the easiest way is to blame this person over here for what they've said, and then we go, and we blame them for the way we're acting and everything. But as you can see, it just gives all the control away. It just leaves us helpless and powerless. So the way we get that control back is to realize that actually the reason we're feeling this way is because of what we're making it mean. And then we can realize that we're responsible for that feeling, and we can start working on those beliefs and realize that these people are actually probably some of our greatest teachers. So that is emotional childhood in a nutshell. And emotional adulthood would be like you're thinking that so you get criticized and you think, well, I'm responsible for my feelings. You might be feeling rejected. It's not that it's a very natural, normal feeling, isn't it? If you get criticized to feel rejected. We don't want to use this word not to be human. Like if someone criticizes something you've done and doesn't deliver it in a very compassionate way, it's very normal to feel rejection. But when you realize that you're the one that's responsible for your rejection, that feeling, then you put yourself into emotional adulthood. And then the key is you can approach the situation with curiosity and compassion, which opens up all of your options. This, when you approach it with anger and blame, that just narrows your options down. When you approach it with curiosity and compassion, it opens your options up. But the first part, I think, of all the work is realizing that yes, we will experience negative emotions, but we are 100% the creator of those feelings. We don't always have control over the experiencing that feeling of the initial feeling of it because of how our brain's wired. Our brain likes to make it mean something about us. But when we can become aware of that, then we can start solving those emotions internally, and then we can move on and we can set healthy boundaries. Because if we set boundaries because we think this person is responsible, what we're going to do is we're going to set a boundary from trying to control. It's like, I need you to stop doing this. Whereas a healthy boundary is not about saying, I need you to stop doing this. It's when you do this, I'm going to do this. So it brings all that power back. And the last thing I want to say is what's really interesting with this, when you see it as the models, is we may be guessing, but you can sort of see what it is that's driving this other person's behavior as well. Because you can think, well, how would they be feeling? because they've criticized me. How would they be feeling? Angry. Why? What might they be thinking? I don't agree. I don't agree with you. It could be anything. But what you'll realize is you're not the cause of their anger. The situation is not the cause of their anger. It's what they're thinking. And that's causing a feeling which is driving them to criticize. And that's their business. Soon as this criticism lands on your doorstep, then it's yours to deal with. And this is where the responsibility comes in. You won't often notice this. After a certain amount of time, you'll see maybe the same belief come up, the same thoughts come up. But often what we do is we catch it here. We feel that feeling of rejection, or we might notice ourselves blaming, judging, and criticizing. And that's the play. When we catch ourselves here or here, that's, excuse me, that's when we want to put the big pause in. And then we can take back that control. So that's why I said it's like a sliding scale, because not necessarily you're going to get criticized and think, oh, that's amazing. There's nothing to worry about here. You know, you may catch it at this action line or the feeling line, and then you might find yourself in emotional childhood, catch it, and then bring yourself back out by first of all taking full responsibility for this feeling and learning just to feel it, and then questioning the belief that's driving that feeling. So that is emotional childhood.